One of the biggest questions I've had after doing my live stream a couple of weeks ago was how did I do the graphics with on-screen YouTube comments during that broadcast? And that's exactly what I'm going to show you in this video. Now, there's going to be a few different steps to this video. I'm not going to take you into sort of how to use Photoshop to design your graphics or anything like that. Hopefully you've already designed a graphic. I'm going to show you how to use a graphics engine. The one I prefer and I absolutely love using is Singular.live. So I'm going to show you a bit about that console, how to set it up, and then how to take that feed that Singular Live gives you, bring it into the ATEM Mini Pro, and how to change your ATEM Mini Pro settings so that it appears, overlays on top of whatever content you're creating, and then you can obviously stream that out to wherever you need it to go. So the first step, let's talk about Singular Live. So if you go to their website, singular.live, you'll see this page here. It is an absolutely fantastic broadcast grade graphics package that is based in the cloud. And that's one of the main reasons that I absolutely love it, because it's cloud based. You can have multiple people controlling graphics all at the same time. It just works brilliantly, especially if you're working for teams. So they've got a free tier that is available for everyone, and that gives you one output that you can take into your ATEM Mini Pro, for example, but that output is watermarked. So I decided to reach out to the Singular Live team just to see if we could do something special for you, my viewers, and they very kindly responded back and said, Alex, we've never done this before, but we will give your viewers 1 month's free membership of the Singular Live Pro platform. So all you need to do is go over to singular.live, hit sign up, and enter in the promo code you see on screen right now, which is Alex1, and you will get 1 month's, no obligation, no credit card details needing to be entered, just 1 month free of Singular Live Pro, which gives you the clean output to take into your ATEM Mini Pro, and you can have up to 2 users in there working on stuff at the same time. So big thanks to Singular for doing that. The offer code is available for 1 month from the upload date. So if you're watching this 2 months after I uploaded it, it might not work. But if you are watching it within that 1 month span, jump on that code, give Singular a try. Let me know in the comments what you think of it, because I love it and I hope you guys will as well. Let's jump into the Singular console now so I can show you how to set it up. So I've logged into my Singular account here, and essentially the 2 main things that you're going to want to keep in your head and you're going to need are compositions and control apps. Compositions are essentially where you're building your graphics and how they work in terms of the animations of coming in and out on screen, how they look, and everything in terms of the building side, essentially. And then the control app is actually more of when you come to do the production itself, what you want in that graphic in terms of the data, but also actually physically bring it on and off air. So I'll show you both of those, and I'm actually going to show you the composition and the control app that I built for my YouTube live stream, bringing in the comments on and off. So I've got this AP YouTube comment composition here. If I just go into that, it might look quite daunting what you actually get here, but let me talk you through it. So firstly, these are, think of it a bit like Photoshop, all of your layers on the left-hand side here. They're actually sub-compositions, and I was trialing it through. So this one that's called green, I actually want to rename it because it's essentially just a background color. Then I was doing some testing with the lower thirds because Singular is massively powerful. You don't have to just input the data. It can pull data from APIs, from Google Sheets and things like that, so that it updates the data in real time automatically without you having to even touch anything. So I was messing around with bits on those. We're going to ignore those. Let me just, if I click on this button in the top left, that's where I can just bring things in and out to make it a bit clearer. So I've got the green in at the moment. Let me take that out. I'll show you the top left was just the subscribe button that I had on my stream the other day. And that's actually just a GIF that loops. So you can do GIFs in Singular, but the real thing that everyone was talking about and commenting about were these lower third YouTube comments. So I'm going to show you, go into that sub-composition and show you that. But firstly, what we're going to want to do is build a background layer, because we're going to have to key this out in the ATEM. Now I use, and this is different from some people, I wanted to make sure when I did graphics, I still had the ability, if I wanted to use a green screen, to be able to chroma key. So for that reason, I actually use the ATEM Mini Pro's downstream keyer, and I use a luma key for that, so that I still have the ability to use the upstream keyer for chroma keying if I ever wanted to put a green screen behind me. So although I've called it green because I was messing around with the chroma key before, if I go into this composition, you simply have, actually, let me just take out that lower third so we don't complicate things. You essentially have here, if I just bring it in, it won't make, there is a green one here, but it's just a rectangle that fills the screen. So I've just created a rectangle object, which is this button here that is 1080p sized. As long as it fills the screen, it doesn't matter. But the key thing here is I wanted to be able to, on the fly, change the color if I wanted to. And that's where these things called control nodes come in. They're brilliant. I won't go too much into detail and complicate you. We'll use them definitely more in the actual comment part in a second. But they essentially allow you to create a field that shows up in the control app so that you can change things quickly on the fly. So anything I change in here actually controls this fill color here. And you can see that if I click on the word fill, you'll see it's being controlled by a control node, and that is color picker, which is this thing that I've created here. So I could create anything if I wanted to do it, again, like a text box, for example, and call that name. That would show up here, and that would show up in the control app so that we can easily change our graphics on the fly. You just have to link it to what you want it to control. So here I've linked this color picker so that if I start to move this around, you'll see it actually updates the color. So first layer I've created is just a background layer. I'm actually going to set this to black because I'm not using a chroma key, I'm using a luma key. Now, of course, the only negative thing about doing this is essentially your Blackmagic ATEM Mini is going to key out anything that is black. So you can't have black text, which is why I went for the color scheme of, if I just show you here, white and red for my lower third. So that's the only sort of negative thing. You can still, because the key, the Luma key in the Blackmagic is really good, you can actually still get pretty dark gray text and it won't key that out. It will know the difference between the dark grays and the blacks. But I decided to just go simple with white and red color scheme. If you wanted to use a chroma key and do it on the upstream key, then of course the only color you couldn't use is green. So it's completely up to you. So we've built that background layer. It doesn't look like it's showing at the moment simply because it's black, but it is there. Let me bring in the lower third and show you how I built that. So that is just this sub-composition here. I click this arrow here to go into it. You've essentially got 4 elements that I built here. If we go through each one thing to say is, as with exactly the same as apps like Photoshop, in terms of the order of the layers, that is like the order that things will appear on top of each other. Also, when you're displaying them on the output as well. So if I go back to my main composition here, the green or the background will, because it's at the bottom here, it will always be at the bottom. So no matter what other layers we bring in, they'll appear on top. So just make sure your layering is in the right order of things that you want displayed on the screen here. So I'll go back into this lower third. Let's bring them on one by one. So what we've got here, essentially this bottom layer is actually just a PNG image of the style I wanted my comment to look like. So I made this PNG image in Photoshop, and I knew I wanted to have the name of the person on this white area here, and then the comment itself in this area here. So you can add an image. There's an image option up here. I added that, and then it basically gives you these. Up here are all your tools for each layer. So I can change the size of it. I can change how it comes on and off the screen, the animation. So how long it takes to go on and off the screen, what type of animation I want, any effects, events. I don't tend to use these ones. Adaptive is for different screen sizes. The other one I do tend to use, although I haven't used it here, is update behavior. And I'll talk about that in a second, but essentially Singular is really clever. It knows if you're using the same template, so if I'm using this lower third template, and I wanted to, rather than bring a comment off screen, to bring another one on, if I just wanted to go from comment A to comment B, it will just update the parts that need updating. So if I'm going from comment A to comment B, nothing changes of this background layer, this template, so that's fine, it will keep that the same. It only changes the name of the person and the comment itself. And so we can actually tell Singular to do some really nice, clean animation between those two things. And I'll show you that in the control app. That's this update. But anyway, this is where I add the image. You can host stuff. If I click this bit here, you can actually upload the images into Singular itself and host it in Singular. That's what I did here. And I've just used this background PNG image as my first layer. On top of that, I've then got text, which is, I could rename this to the comment itself, but I just called it text, but it's just a text field. Now where it starts getting a bit more kind of complicated is, again, I'm using one of these control nodes so that in the control app, we're able to put in the comments very quickly, and it's all dynamic and everything like that. So this text, which I've added using just this button here, essentially I've just transformed it and repositioned it so it's in the right place. I've done some stuff with how the word wrapping and the overflowing works as well, so that if there's one line, so I've said like maximum number of lines in a comment could be 5 and the minimum is 1, and you give it all of those sort of parameters so that, again, if you're editing the text, so if I just change this text slightly to just be 1 line or 1 word even, so I'll copy it for now, but if I just change that to Alex, it automatically realigns, resizes everything so it doesn't look super weird. If I do Alex on 3 lines, again, you'll see it reformats it so that it works nicely within that confined space. I'm not going to go into all the details about how I did that. I play around with Singular. It takes time to get used to it, but all those things are possible. So I'll paste that comment back in there. So again, all I did to link this was in the text behavior here, I just created a control node called comment, and that's what is controlling whatever appears in here. And I'll show you in the control app later why this is important to use these control nodes. Same with the name. It's just another field here. And then I put a nice little like YouTube logo in as well. We could, if we wanted to, if I wanted to collect comments from Facebook, or if I was live streaming on Twitch at the same time, these logos could swap in and out depending on where I'm getting that comment from. So that's why I put that in as well. Because if I was multi-streaming, we could even have this banner change from red to blue if it was a Facebook comment, and do all sorts of clever stuff like that. But let's keep it simple for this demonstration. And that is essentially our comment and how I built it. So it's really just a PNG image on the background, 2 text fields, and another just small PNG image for the logo. In terms of the other things to note in here, the main thing is the animation. So we can see if we click play here, that just shows us our animation of how it's animating in and out. The other way to do it is, of course, press these out and in buttons. And you can mess around with that. There's loads of different ways of animating in and out and power. So you can have different sort of S-curves and things like that of how it animates in, so you can get different effects of the speed and things like that. Loads of tweaks and availability and things like that. And that's pretty much it. So this is the area, this composer is the area where you're creating the, let's say, templates that you want to use on the live stream. Right, let's go back now into my Singular dashboard. We've built, and what it does is it can see I'm in there, so it doesn't let anyone else affect that composition. Only one person can build at a time. But we'll close that and it can see I'm out of it. And now, by the way, to create any of these, you just click on this new button here, composition and control app. Now let's build a new control app to control these graphics. So you're going to hit new control app, choose Studio. Spark is a more basic controller for iPads and things like that. Studio is the full version. Give it a name, so we'll call it demo comments. Click create. Now it's going to ask you, okay, this is a control app, what do you want me to control? So you're going to select the composition that we just built, which is this AP YouTube comment, and now the control app will have access to all those layers and templates that you built. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is let's bring in that background layer. So I'm just going to click green. Now, one thing I should just show you, because it complicated the hell out of me when I was first learning how to do Singular, is if we just go back into the composition, you need to give, for them to show up, you need to give each one of these, see how these are labeled with colors? They're basically, they're like tags. I don't know the best way to describe them. They're called logic layers. And what it's essentially saying is, if one of these layers is on screen, if it's on the same logic layer, then it needs to come like off screen, or if it's on the same logic layer, you don't want things to clash. Like you don't want stuff to overlap, which is what these logic layers try and help to avoid. I know I'm not explaining that very well, but essentially put these in a logic layer based on what they are. So I've just created a logic layer called lower thirds, and I put all these different lower thirds that I'm experimenting with in that logic layer. And then I've created a logic layer called background for this background one as well. And you'll know that they're different because they have different colors next to them. Because then when you go into the composition and you click the plus button up here, you'll see we've got this background logic layer, the lower thirds logic layer, and the top left logic layer, and all the different templates that we've created that we can use in them. So I've already put my background, which annoyingly I call green, but isn't, so we'll rename that to black. And the color picker is black. I'll duplicate this, and this is where the control nodes are great, because if I duplicate this layer and call it green, just to show you, I can then go into here again. We've got the color picker and just create a green layer straight like that. And I can switch between the two. By the way, you've got preview on the right, on the left, program, so what's going out on the right. Very similar to like you would expect on any other production software. So to preview it, you just click on the layer that you want to preview. To take it to air, you press the play button. Couldn't be that simple or any more simple. So now we've got a green background layer. We actually want the black background layer, so I'm going to take that to air, and I'm just going to, for this demo, get rid of that because we're going to use black and a Luma key when it comes to the ATEM Mini Pro. Let's start getting some comments in. So we were working on the lower thirds layer. So let's bring that in, just click on it, and you can see it appears there. Let's say comment 1, give it a name. Now this is where, see, we had these control nodes. This is where you're going to now input your data. So we'll have Alex Petit. I felt like I didn't spell my name right there for a second. As the name, and then comment number 1 as the actual comment. You can see as I'm updating here in these control nodes, it's pushing it in real time and we're seeing it appear. So then I'll just put line number 2. You can see it's updating in real time. And if we wanted to push that to air right there and then, bam, that's it. It's on. And I can even if that comment's on air, let's say we wanted to adjust it, line number 3, you can see it's updated in the preview, and when we're ready to push it to live, all we do is click update, and you see how it scrolls? That's that update animation that we set in the control when we were building this graphic. Now, again, let's say we wanted to very quickly on the fly bring in another comment. All I'm going to do is, it's easiest for me to duplicate this comment. You could also go up to the plus and just add in another lower thirds layer. Give it a name, so we'll call it comment 2. Wow, I can't spell today. Comment 2. And again, even though that number 1 comment is still on air, I can change this to guest 2. Comment from guest 2 talking about how awesome singular live is. Something like that. Then when it's ready, and we've got two things we can do here. I can even bring off the comment from comment number 1, have it animate out, and then bring in the comment from guest 2 and have it animate in. Or if we wanted to, we were on comment number 1. Because of those update animations, I just click play, and you can see it updates the parts that need updating, just the name and the comment, the background and the little YouTube logo. Singular is clever enough to say, okay, this is the same in both of these templates, so we'll leave those on screen and just animate the bits that actually need to change. And that's essentially what you're doing. Then you're just building out as many of these graphics or as many of these different comments as you want. So we've got comment number 3, blah, 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 blah. And to bring them on and off the air, you can see it's so responsive. You just click play and it's in straight away. Again, if I wanted to bring another layer in, I've got my top left layer. Bam, that's in as well. And that's where these logic layers come in. Because this top left is on a different logic layer to the lower third, you'll see as I'm changing between these, it knows to bring, it knows like it's on a different logic layer. So I can have these two on screen at the same time. But if I try and put 2 comments on screen at the same time, it's going to know actually it just needs to change it. Don't bring on another comment over the top of it because of these logic layers. It's really clever stuff. Right, let's leave a comment on screen then. we'll get rid of the top left, because how do you now get this into your ATEM Mini Pro now that you've built it, you've populated some of these comments, you want to actually get the graphic into it. And this is the really cool part, because this is all essentially output as a browser source that actually has transparency as well. So if you didn't want to use this on an ATEM Mini Pro but wanted to use it on OBS, for example, you wouldn't even need to worry about Luma keying and this black background, because if I just remove the black background, we now have full transparency. And I would just add, and I'll show you how to generate the browser source, but add the output as from Singular as a browser source in OBS, and that's it. You've got full transparency and everything. So this isn't just for ATEM Mini Pro users. You could use it on OBS, Wirecast, vMix, whatever you want. So I'm going to add it back in for a second there, that background. All you're going to do is click the share button at the top. You're going to go, see, now I like to have my settings. I like to actually say, okay, I'm doing a 1080p production. So I like to force it to be 1080p, but you can say, have it be responsive. And I'm going to keep the transparent background on because I'm overlaying a proper black background anyway. Just copy that link there. And what you're going to need to do is have a second device, or you can do it all on the same device, but essentially you need to put this full screen on a device into the ATEM Mini. So I've got a MacBook here, just a spare MacBook on the side, and I'm just coming out of the HDMI from the MacBook into the ATEM Mini Pro, into HDMI 1, and it's just an extended display that all I've done is I've taken that output from Singular, put it into Chrome, because Chrome works best with Singular, full screened it, and you can see now, if I go to multi-view, because I'm recording this on my ATEM Mini Pro, if you look in camera 1, or I can actually just switch to camera 1 here, that is the output of camera 1 currently. It is just our black background with our comment. If I switch to the multi-view, you have the computer's output showing what we are controlling in Singular Live Control app. So if I change one of these, you'll see it controls A. It might be if I go full screen. There we go. There we go. You can see it changing in real time. Now, how do we actually get this over the top of our output? We have to do or set up a downstream key in the ATEM Mini Pro. And so I'm going to open up my ATEM control software. And what I'm going to do is go to the downstream key. And these are the settings that I'm using for this. So my fill source is camera 1 and my key source is also camera 1. And what I'll do for a second here is just turn it on so that you can see any changes we make, and you can see it working there. So yeah, as I say, fill source is camera 1, key source is camera 1. So the input that you are taking your laptop output or whatever device you're using for Singular. And then the main things you're going to want to play around with is the clip and the gain. So they're probably going to be set to something like this. And let's remove that mask for now. So it's probably going to look like something like this. And you just need to tweak these. So I think I had this on about 10, let's say. You're going to want to tweak these until it looks about right. Which is, yeah, somewhere, let's say there. And then you have a really nice clean key. Using the downstream key, you can fade it on and off in there. And the reason I like to use, again, the Luma key in the downstream key is because I still have my upstream key available to use. So I still have the ability, if I wanted to, I could do picture in picture. So if I just bring that on here, I don't have any other sources plugged in. Let me just change that to the same source. There we go. So I can still use picture in picture even with graphics. If I wanted to do chroma keying and things like that, I could still do all of those as well. So that's why I choose the DSK to bring in my graphics. So I've got my laptop as the output device, and I've got my other laptop, my MacBook Pro, as the control device. So now as I'm changing any of these, you'll see in real time on the bottom here, it's changing the comment. If I want to bring in the top left bug, there it is, to subscribe. And if you haven't already, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you're finding this video useful. Get that little plug in there. And I can just add as many of these as I want. You can see I can preview it first on my Singular output, or on my Singular control console, and then take it to air. If I quickly want to create another one, the easiest way I find is just to duplicate it. I can rename it here. So example 2, singular example. Hey, singular fans. So I can check it, make sure all the spelling's fine in the preview, then say, okay, it's ready to go to air now. In this instance, I'll take off the old one and then bring on the new one. And there it is. Now, for me, you can then go deeper into this, hook it up to different APIs. So for example, I could hook this up to the YouTube API and the comment API so that it's actually pulling in that name and comment data for me. And then I can just simply see the graphics populating here in singular and choose the one I want on air. That is how I'm bringing my graphics into the ATEM Mini Pro and using them on a live stream. This singular, I mean, I'm using it in this essence in its most basic form, just for a lower third to do with comments. I'll bring it off screen for now. But this app, or platform I should say, is so powerful. You can build so much with singular. I use it across a number of broadcasts. I'll probably show them up here or wherever. I might just cut to them, give you some examples and some of the stuff that has been done and created using singular. It was used on golf. We use it on a lot of our football shows to bring in real-time data and scores from around the world of football and soccer if you're watching in the US. So yeah, you can really push the boundaries with this. It's kind of limitless on what you want to do in terms of data and displaying that data on your feed. But if you just want simple graphics, it works for that as well. If after watching this video and you've had a go with singular, you've got any questions, put them in the comments below. Same with any questions if you're struggling to actually hook up, it doesn't even have to be singular, but a graphics engine with the ATEM Mini Pro. Any questions about this video, put them in the comments below, because I'll be answering them as many as possible, but also keeping tabs on good ones that I think would be good to ask to the singular guys, because that will probably be another video that I'll do as soon as possible. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. There'll be more content and more tutorials coming on the channel very soon, plus some new tech as well that I'm testing out. And if you haven't yet, hit the like button, because it helps, and I really appreciate that. It helps me see whether you like this type of content or I should change it up. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will see you in the next one.